Hi there and welcome to another Ginger Prince production. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about hell. I've got a book that's coming out soon called 501 Questions to Ask God, and in that I ask God 501 questions, and I thought it'd be interesting to just look at a couple of questions to do with hell today and see whether the notion of hell is at all coherent. Hell is a funny one, certainly in the Christian, Judeo-Christian context, because hell didn't really exist before the New Testament. There's mention of Sheol and such sort of ideas of hell, but until the Greeks came along and gave the Jews the idea of a soul, of an immortal vessel for the human essence, then they didn't really have heaven or hell. The New Testament came along and you started getting ideas of heaven and hell developed from the Greek thinking, and hell is mentioned a few times, within the context of Revelations, and Gehenna, which is the rubbish dump outside of Jerusalem that kind of symbolised hell to certain Jewish types. But the sort of questions that I would like to be answered by God at some point would be, you got simple ones like, where is hell located? Is it a physical place or entirely sort of non-physical? Is it fair to commit someone, a soul for example, to eternal infinite punishment for a finite crime? And as with heaven, what is the arbitrary point at which someone is committed to hell, as opposed to being just safe from it? So what's the cut-off line where you go, right, you're going to hell, but actually you're safe because you haven't just done this little bit where he had, so that means he's going to hell, and actually you're going to heaven. What defines whether you can get into heaven or hell, and is it arbitrary? Because I imagine it can only be sort of arbitrary. Is hell governed by anyone or anything, such as Satan? If it's a soul that's punished in hell, how can a non-sensory sort of vessel, a non-sensory thing, bereft of its sort of corporeal sensory organs, feel anything? So how can a soul feel something? Because we know that for pretty much every sensation in the world, we need sort of bodily organs to ground those senses. Is the idea of hell coherent with an all-loving God? And once you're committed to hell, is there any way of redeeming yourself? Warranting forgiveness, for example, which is something that God and Jesus espouse. This idea of forgiveness is so important to Christianity, yet committing someone to an infinite torture, an eternal torture for something that they've done, a finite crime that they've done, just seems completely at odds with the core tenets of Christianity. Given that many people think that hell is the absence of God, and you have many millions of atheists around the world and many billions of people that believe in a different God, does this mean that all these people are living a hell on earth because they are absent from God in their lives? And is hell just a bribe to make people behave well? It's a consequentialist punishment. So all these questions I find fascinating within the realms of religion and Christianity, and I can't find any notion of hell that seems to be coherent with the rest of Christianity. How can a forgiving God have some kind of eternal torture for people? It just doesn't make any sense. And Satan, if Satan exists, well, I'm going to do another little video on Satan, so I'll leave those questions for later. But, you know, hell suffers from many of the problems that heaven does. You know, where is it? As I said, is it a physical place or a completely non-physical place? You know, how can you have something completely non-physical being tortured? So all these questions, and if anyone has any answers to these, you know, please post them in the comments. And remember that the answers to these can't just be standalone answers. They have to cohere with the rest of Christianity. So quite often you get apologists answering a problem with theism or with Christianity and saying, right, here's a problem, here's the answer. But they don't necessarily check whether their answer is coherent with all their other beliefs about their religion. And that's a massive problem. You know, there needs to be a systematic coherence right across their theology, and that often doesn't happen. So hell, you know, what the hell?